Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chari Yamuna Tiravana Chari Yamuna Tiravana Chari Tiravana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa Parujikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai
Jai
ISKCON BPD Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai
Jai
Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Parujikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai
Jai
Ananta Goti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai
Jai
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai
Jai
Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. So, before we begin, I've been requested to read this announcement. Hare Krishna, everyone. All our classes are broadcast on both Zoom and YouTube simultaneously. Our YouTube video description has a link and instructions on how to join the Zoom meeting for all our classes. Please join the Zoom meeting to ask questions or to make comments during class. Hare Krishna. Okay. Dhanavari? Hello? You need to mute yourself until you're going to actually speak. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 On this 10th day of February 2021 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in the 7th chapter entitled Knowledge of the Absolute. Text number 24 at the top of page 334. Avyaktam vyaktamapannam, avyaktam vyaktamapannam, manyate mama buddhayaha, manyante mama buddhayaha, param bhavma jananto, mamamahim anuttamam. Avyaktam vyaktamapannam, avyaktam vyaktamapannam, manyante mama buddhayaha, param bhavma jananto, mamavyamanuttamam. Avyaktam vyaktamapannam, manyante mama buddhayaha, param bhavma jananto, padam bhavam jananto mamavihyamanuttamam mamavihyamanuttamam. Word meanings. Avyaktam, non-manifested. Vyaktam, personality. Apanam, achieved. Manyante, think. Mam, me. Abuddhayaha, less intelligent persons. Param, supreme. Bhavam, existence. Ajananta, without knowing. Mama, my. Abhyayam, imperishable. Anuttamam, the finest. Translation. Unintelligent men who do not know me perfectly think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and have now assumed this personality. Due to their small knowledge, they do not know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. Purport. Those who are worshippers of demigods have been described as less intelligent persons, and here the impersonalists are similarly described. Lord Krishna in his personal form is here speaking before Arjuna, and still, due to ignorance, impersonalists argue that the Supreme Lord ultimately has no form. Yamunacharya, a great devotee of the Lord in the disciplic succession of Ramanujacharya, has written a very appropriate verse in this connection. He says, page 334, Tvam Shila Rupa Charita Padama Prakrishtai Satvena Satvikataya Prabalascha Shastrai Prakyata Daiva Padamata Vidam Mataischa Naivasura Prakritaya Prabhavanti Bodhum. My dear Lord, devotees like Vyasadeva and Narada know you to be the personality of Godhead. By understanding different Vedic literatures, one can come to know your characteristics, your form, and your activities. And one can thus understand that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance, the demons, the non-devotees, cannot understand you. They are unable to understand you. However expert such non-devotees may be in discussing Vedanta and the Upanishads and other Vedic literatures, it is not possible for them to understand the personality of Godhead. Stotra Ratna 12. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that the personality of Godhead cannot be understood simply by study of the Vedanta literature. Only by the mercy of the Supreme Lord can the personality of the Supreme be known. Therefore, in this verse it is clearly stated that not only are the worshippers of the demigods less intelligent, but those non-devotees who are engaged in Vedanta and speculation on Vedic literature without any tinge of true Krishna consciousness are also less intelligent, and for them it is not possible to understand God's personal nature. Page 335. Near the top. Persons who are under the impression that the absolute truth is impersonal are described as abuddhaya, which means those who do not know the ultimate feature of the absolute truth. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that supreme realization begins from the impersonal Brahman and then rises to the localized supersoul. But the ultimate word in the absolute truth is the personality of Godhead. Modern impersonalists are still less intelligent, for they do not even follow their great predecessor Shankaracharya, who has specifically stated that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Impersonalists, therefore, not knowing the supreme truth, think Krishna to be only the son of Devaki and Vasudeva, or a prince or a powerful living entity. This is also condemned in the Bhagavad Gita 9:11. Avajananti mamudha manushim tanam ashritam. Only the fools regard me as an ordinary person. The fact is that no one can understand Krishna without rendering devotional service and without developing Krishna consciousness. The Bhagavatam 10:14-29 confirms this. Atapite deva padambojandvaya prasadaleshanugita evahi janati tattvam bhagavan mahimno nachandhe ko picharam vichindvan. My Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many years. One cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, or his form, qualities, or name simply by mental speculation or by discussing Vedic literature. One must understand him by devotional service. When one is fully engaged in Krishna consciousness, beginning by chanting the Maha Mantra altogether, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, then only can one understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Non-devotee impersonalists think that Krishna has a body made of this material nature, and that all his activities, his form, and everything are Maya. These impersonalists are known as Mayavadis. They do not know the ultimate truth. The 20th verse clearly states, Kamaistaista Riddhyajnana Papadyante Anyadevata. Those who are blinded by lusty desires surrender unto the different demigods. It is accepted that besides the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are demigods who have their different planets, and the Lord also has a planet. As stated in the 23rd verse, Devan Devi Ajoyanti, Manbhakta Yanti Mamapi. The worshippers of the demigods go to the different planets of the demigods, and those who are devotees of Lord Krishna go to the Krishna Loka planet. Although this is clearly stated, the foolish impersonalists still maintain that the Lord is formless and that these forms are impositions. From the study of the Gita, does it appear that the demigods and their abodes are impersonal? Clearly, neither the demigods nor Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are impersonal. They are all persons. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he has his own planet, and the demigods have theirs. Therefore, the monistic contention that ultimate truth is formless and that form is imposed does not hold true. It is clearly stated here that it is not imposed. From the Bhagavad Gita, we can clearly understand that the forms of the demigods and the form of the Supreme Lord are simultaneously existing, and that Lord Krishna is Satchid Ananda, eternal blissful knowledge. The Vedic literature confirms that the Supreme Absolute Truth is knowledge and blissful pleasure. Vijnanam Anandam Brahma. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 3.9.28. And that he is the reservoir of unlimited auspicious qualities. Ananta Kalyana Gunatma Kosal, Vishnu Purana 6.584. And in the Gita, the Lord says that although he is Aja, unborn, he still appears. These are the facts that we should understand from the Bhagavad Gita. We cannot understand how the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be impersonal. The imposition theory of the impersonalist monist is false as far as the statements of the Gita are concerned. It is clear herein that the Supreme Absolute Truth, Lord Krishna, has both form and personality. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession. So, when you have a long purport like this, oftentimes it's an anti-Mayavadi purport. There's one like this in the 2nd chapter. There's a verse there, Natrevaham jatu nasam natvam neme janaripa. O Arjun, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these fighters, nor in the future shall any of you cease to be. So, similarly here, this idea of yaktam vyaktim apanam, that the avyakta, the non-manifested, becomes manifested. Like ex nihilo, from nothing comes something. But the Vaishnav Siddhanta is based on the Shruti and based on the Smriti, like this Bhagavad Gita. We're following Krishna's words. You know, aham evasam eva agre. That's from the Bhagavatam. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattak sarvam bhavartade. That everything is emanating from me. Or mattak paratanam nanyat. There is no truth superior to me. And just by our own logic, and in kind of common sense, how can all this form and personality and activity and everything come from nothing? As explained in the first purport of the Ishopanishads, I think it's the purport to the invocation. He gives this argument that whatever is there in the effect must be there in the cause, at least as much in the effect as there is in the effect must be there in the cause, and the effect is all of this variety and our own personality. We have personality, we have desires, we have personhood. So there must be personhood in the cause, in the ultimate cause of everything. And we know there's so much more as well. So there's avyaktam, vyaktam, apanam. The unintelligent fools say that the personality, vyaktim, that which is visible, vyaktim means actually visible, avyaktam, invisible, non-manifest. If you look up the word manifest, which I did once when my work as an editor, you'll find it seems simply visible. And to manifest as a verb means to make visible, to make something you can see. So here the avyaktam, which means not only invisible but practically not existing, comes existence or personality achieved. Manyante, they think, mam abuddhya, think that I have attained the personality, but above me is the impersonal Brahman. That's the whole point of the Mayavad. Abuddhya, not very intelligent. They do not understand that my personality, the supreme quality of my personality, because the fallacy usually starts with imposing our restricted conception of personality and fallibility and temporality upon the Supreme. In other words, if there's personality, there must be the imperfections that we know so well about our own personality. But that's a fallacy. There's this Supreme Personality who is Satchidananda Vigraha. Brahma's first verse in his Brahma Samhita, very important. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Controller. Satchidananda Vigraha. He has a form that is eternal, not fallible like God, not temporary, full of knowledge, chit, and full of ananda, bliss. So compare our own personality, it's certainly not eternal, it's bodies of ours, certainly not completely knowing everything, and ananda, not so much, as they say, not so much. So by contrast. So, due to ignorance, the Supreme ultimately has no form. So then he quotes from Yamunacharya. By understanding different Vedic literatures, one can come to know your characteristics, your form, your activities. One can thus understand you, that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But those in the mode of passion and ignorance, the demons, the non-devotees, can't understand you. They're unable to understand. However expert such devotees may be in discussing Vedanta and Upanishads, other Vedic literatures, it's not possible for them to understand the personality of Godhead. So this point is made again and again and again. To really understand, and it's quite inconceivable, that a person, one of the most amazing things is coming up, I think the very next verse, no, 2 verses hence. I know everything in the past, everything that's happened. I know everything that's happening now, and I know everything that will happen in the future. If you just try to wrap your mind about that, it's just like, it's inconceivable how a person, certainly not a person like us, if you try to think, well, it's a person like us, then it doesn't make any sense. To know everything that's happened, every detail of everything, it's just, that's the inconceivable part of the divine. It just expands our conception of what is possible and what's real. Yeah.
Prabhu, we cannot hear the question.
Oh yeah, all right, we're going to have to, all right, put it on hold. Sorry about that. Why were you late? Maya. I was here all alone. I think Mukunda must be with Maharaj. Do you guys still have one day up at the farm too? Yeah. You came back from there already? Okay. I was thinking that maybe it. And as far as Glenn, he's probably with Maharaj.
Glenn's with Maharaj. Mukunda's cooking.
Okay.
So my question was how to reconcile that verse with the idea that we have free will.
Okay. The Vedaham Samatitani.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a classic question. The question was, I quoted this verse, which is coming up in 26. Vedaham Samatitani Vartamanani Charjana Bhavashaniti Bhutani Mamta Vedana Kashchana. Arjuna, as Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows. So the classic question is, well, okay, I heard this actually on a tape just yesterday or 2 days ago. The devotee asked probably the question. If Krishna knows everything, then he knows exactly when we're going to surrender. But if he knows that, then where's the free will? Or one may say, okay, if Krishna knows when it is, then what do I have to do? It's going to happen because he knows when it's going to happen, so I'll just wait. I don't need to do anything because it's going to happen anyway. And even if I try, like anything, to surrender, I can't move that it's already locked in. So what's the point of even, So the idea is that within that inconceivable realm, of Krishna knowing everything, it doesn't change. That may come up here also in the Bhagavad Gita. In other words, in the 11th chapter, Krishna says they're already they're already dead. I've already arranged, and he showed them the vision of their heads being crushed, in the universal form, So Arjuna said, well, what's the difference if I fight or not? They're already finished. And the idea is that in the whole point of bhakti is to awaken in us this feeling of devotion to Krishna. He doesn't, Prabhupada said so many times, he doesn't really need our offerings, he has millions of people chanting his glories and living entities, what does he need us for? So it's all entirely our benefit. If we simply say, well, it's already locked into fate, there's no point in my even trying, then that means that we're not going to awaken that bhakti. That is where our free will comes in. That will develop if we make the effort and try to surrender as far as possible, and feel that our activities and our efforts is what Krishna is seeing and he's reciprocating. If we get into the mentality of saying, okay, it's already locked in, then we're sort of putting ourselves in an inanimate position. What's the difference? The rock is going to eventually dissolve due to the water coming. So similarly, I'm going to eventually surrender. So I'll be just like a rock. But then you're not going to develop any bhakti. So it is paradoxical. I admit that. But Krishna himself, he gives this at the end of the Bhagavad Gita. After everything he says, Yatechasi tathakuru, now you do as you like. I'm not forcing you. This is why we brought up the other day this idea of servitude as opposed to servanthood. I don't know if you were here, Prakash. There's a word that appears often in Prabhupada in the list of the rasas, and there's a neutrality, shanta ras, and then oftentimes servitude and friendship, parenthood, and conjugal, So that servitude, it turns out, is slavery. And that's what the word means in English. And so, Vijendranath Prabhu was saying, well, yeah, it's somewhat like that. You're under direct, if you're in the ashram. But no, the whole point is that you're voluntarily in the ashram. You can't stay in the ashram and do everything, then you have to do A, B, C, and D if you want to be. But you don't have to be in the ashram. If you can walk out any time. That's not servitude. Servitude means you got the chains on. And really what counts is not the fact that the activities that you may do in all these rasas, but rather the emotions that awaken as you do the activities. They're means of awakening an emotion. So the emotion of servitude, there's that verse that was quoted recently in a purport. This is by, again from the Stotra Ratna. Probably quoted often from Stotra. Different verse. Also cited in the CC. Prashanta nikshesa manoda tantarak. Kadahamakantika nitya kinkara paharshi yasyami sanata jivitam. So it's a classic verse for praying for a dasya position, servant position. So he says, Bhavantam eva anuchadan narantara. So narantara means without ceasing. Ivanuchadan means following you, carefully serving you. And then the result will be prashanta, will be pacified. Nikshesa manodatantadak, my mind, which is endlessly on this chariot of the mind going here and there. In other words, that will be pacified. I won't want to take my mind anywhere. Nikshesam. And what will I feel? Paharshi yasyami. Kadaham aikantika nitya kinkada. When will I be in a position of your exclusive, without deviation, humble servant, menial servant? This is, dasya ras. And the result will be praharshi yasyami. I will be jubilant to have such a wonderful master. I'll be just satisfied with that. There's no praharshisyami in servitude. What are the emotions? Fear, anger. Think of the slaves in the South in 1840. Fear and anger and hatred and depression. That's not dasya ras. I'm sorry. And that's why it's an issue. The servitude is there, and it's one of the words that devotees probably know what it means, because it's not a common word. You say, oh, okay, it's another way of saying servanthood, being a servant. But it's not exactly like that. And so the question is, and then I was thinking, because I always think of the foreign translations, they're not translating that as slavery in their language. They're translating it as servitorship or servanthood or something like that. And those are two other words that Prabhupada sometimes use, mostly servitorship. And anyway, so, oh boy, I never put this back in. So that's the as far as I can tell, it's one of the questions, of how we can reconcile this, the infinite with our infinitesimal little reality. Why should the infinite even be interested in us? Krishna has unlimited, servants and so forth, and lovers and friends and everything. But he's so concerned about us individually. He's come to live with us, life after life. He's trying to guide us in the right direction. He arranges for have great acharyas come. All this. He provides the holy name. Because one of the inconceivable things about Krishna is that he's not limited like us. He can have intimate relations with unlimited people. We can have 2 or 3 friends, and and that's it. That's the great illusion of the internet. You have, I have 2,000 friends. No, you don't. That's just a illusion. So yes, even though Krishna knows, still it's up to us to act. Even though the battle is already won, Arjun's perfection will become when he tries as hard as he can and relies on Krishna. And we see that sometimes it looks like Arjun's about to be killed by Bhishma Dev. It doesn't, but he's fully surrendered. Whatever you want, and he was of course saved and exalted. So that's the only answer I can think of. All right, let's explore a little bit more this verse. Prabhupada in the Brahma Samhita stated the personality cannot be understood simply by study. So this is a key point: is that the Mayavadis, through their intellect, they try to figure it all out. Their whole sadhana is, meditating and discussing the Vedanta Sutra. It's all very mental. But Krishna's not interested in that. He's so great, you cannot know him by any amount of cogitation, any amount of logic. Because that's what Vedanta is, the Nyaya Prasthana. Nyaya means logic, So why does he reveal himself? From the bhakti. And that's brought out in this verse that's quoted from the from the Bhagavatam, 14th chapter. This is also Brahma speaking. Atapite deva padam bhajadvaya, that prasada lesha anugrihi, by a little tiny mercy of your lotus feet. In other words, service. That's this verse. Padambuja dvaya prasada lesha anugrihi evahi janati tattvam. They can know you in truth. What can they know about you? Bhagavan Mahimno, the glories of you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Others cannot, no matter how long they cogitate, and on the Vedas, Chidam Vichinvan means, speculating here and there. Krishna he remains hidden. He's not interested in that. He reveals himself in proportion to our devotion. And so that's the key. That's why the bhaktas can only the bhaktas can know Krishna in truth. The others get bewildered. Think the absolute truth. The Mayavadis think the absolute truth is the impersonal Brahman, and others, total materialists, they think there is no absolute truth, But Krishna responds to our heartfelt devotion, and that's one of the reasons why there's a great advantage in the Kali Yuga, especially this Kali Yuga, where Lord Chaitanya came, because how do we get to that point of experiencing the truth of Krishna and the ecstasy that comes from actual, real service to Krishna? By this, being as humble as possible, calling out, as helplessly to Krishna. As soon as we think, I have some independent strength to know, then we have work to do. We have to really feel that at every step, at every breath, we're depending on Krishna, and we're trying to work for Him. So that's easier to attain in a situation like this Kali Yuga, when things are so difficult and fraught, and there's not that much security. Than if we lived in the Satya Yuga for 100,000 years, or we lived in the heavenly planets, you wouldn't feel that urgency of calling out to Krishna helplessly. And we see sometimes, Indra, he's a great devotee, he has a very responsible, position. But because of his powerful senses, he's repeatedly losing his intelligence and doing something that he later regrets. There's a whole list. So anyway, that's Prabhupada brings in the Hare Krishna mantra here. Fully engaged in Krishna consciousness. What's the first? Amanitvam, madambitvam. We'll learn in the 13th chapter. Humility, lack of deceit, worshipping the Acharya, this humble position. That's the way in which Krishna is pleased, and he reveals himself proportionately. Okay. All right. Any questions from the audience at large? Okay. Let's go on to text 25. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritaha mudhoyam nabhijanati loko mamajamabhyam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. Purport. It may be argued that since Krishna was visible to everyone when he was present on this earth, then how can it be said that he is not manifest to everyone? But actually he was not manifest to everyone. When Krishna was present, there were only a few people who could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the assembly of the Kurus, when Shishupal spoke against Krishna's being elected president of the assembly, Bhishma supported Krishna and proclaimed him to be the supreme God. Similarly, the Pandavas and a few others knew that he was the supreme, but not everyone. He was not revealed to the non-devotees and the common man. Therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that but for his pure devotees, all men consider him to be like themselves. He was manifest only to his devotees as the reservoir of all pleasure. But to others, to unintelligent non-devotees, he was covered by his internal potency. Now, do you remember, there's a verse that I don't know by heart, but it's a famous passage where Krishna walks into the wrestling arena, and everybody sees him according to his own consciousness. Kamsa saw him as death personified, the wrestlers as a thunderbolt, the yogis as the super soul, the ladies present as the greatest Cupid, and on like that. And so that's what's being spoken here. He's not manifest as he is. He may be visible in some form, but people don't understand. Just like someone can walk in here and see the deities, and the first thing they'll think, probably, they're worshiping statues, But that's not. But those who have the eyes to see, they think, oh, that's Krishna. I have to be very careful. I can't make a lie or anything. I can't eat anything in front of Krishna. Let's have a kirtan. So you see Krishna according to your consciousness. So that's what he's saying here. He's covered by his yogamaya potency. To others, the unintelligent non-devotee, he was covered by internal potency. In the prayers of Kunti in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.8.19, it is said that the Lord is covered by the curtain of yoga maya, and thus ordinary people cannot understand the maya javanikachanam. The javanika is a curtain. This yoga maya curtain is also confirmed in the Ishopanishad mantra 15, in which the devotee prays. Okay, let's chant this one. I'll say, you say. Hiranmayena patrena satyasyapi hitam mukham tattvam pushanna pavanu satyadharmaya drishtaye. O my Lord, you are the maintainer of the entire universe, and devotional service to you is the highest religious principle. Therefore I pray that you will also maintain me. Your transcendental form is covered by the Yoga Maya. The Brahmajyoti is the covering of the internal potency. May you kindly remove this glowing effulgence that impedes my seeing your Satchidananda Vigraha, your eternal form of bliss and knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his transcendental form of bliss and knowledge, is covered by the internal potency of the Brahmajyoti, and the less intelligent impersonalists cannot see the Supreme on this account. Also in Bhagavatam 10.14.7, there is this prayer by Brahma. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Super Soul, O Master of all mystery, who can calculate your potency and pastimes in this world? You are always expanding your internal potency, and therefore no one can understand you. Learned scientists and learned scholars can examine the atomic constitution of the material world or even the planets, but still they are unable to calculate your energy and potency, although you are present before them. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, is not only unborn but also avyaya, inexhaustible. His eternal form is bliss and knowledge, and his energies are all inexhaustible. So just one note on the word mukham. It's interesting that there's three words that I know for face. One is mukham, one mukha, one is anana, and one is vadana. And all of those words also mean mouth, the most important part of the face. It's where you smile, and it's where you speak. So here the mukham means the face. So this golden effulgence is covering the face of the Lord. So he's saying, please remove that so I can see your beautiful face. You see. So this is one of the important, why the Ishopanishad is so important, because it deals with the Isha, it deals with the Supreme Lord, and not just the Brahman. But we've been reading so many wonderful quotes from the Upanishads in the morning, and some of them are definitely focused on the personality of Godhead. So this is a remember that the chapter began with Krishna promising to speak knowledge that accompanied by Vigyan, realized knowledge that will make there'll be nothing further to be known. So he's really so this is we're talking about knowledge here, how knowledge can be covered by illusion, and here the same idea is there, that people are bewildered about me. Naham prakashasava. I'm not manifest to everyone. I'm covered proportionally to people's illusion about me, their ignorance. Mudhoyam nabijanati loko mamajamabhiyam. They don't understand my supreme nature. So this is what Srila Prabhupada came to give, and what Lord Chaitanya came to give, the truth about the Supreme Absolute Personality of Godhead. And it's difficult in this age because the illusion is very thick. People are committed to activity in the lower modes of nature, and it's not easy to penetrate the darkness. But the son of Lord Chaitanya, and the Srimad Bhagavatam, what is that verse? Forget the first word. But now that Krishna has gone back to the spiritual world, taking with him knowledge and dharma and gyan, who is, where is it being reposed now in the Kali Yuga? And the answer is in Srimad Bhagavatam, which acts like the sun to enlighten the benighted people of this age. All right, going on, we're approaching the end of the chapter. Now this next verse, Srila Prabhupada would often quote as an explanation of how we and why we fell from the spiritual world. Ichadvesha samuttena dvandvamohena bharata. Oh, wait a minute. I skipped 26. All right. Let's do 26. Vedaham samatitani Vartamanani charjuna Bhavishyani cha bhutani Mam tu vedana kashchana. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows. Purport. Here the question of personality and impersonality is clearly stated. If Krishna, the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, were Maya, material, as the impersonalists consider him to be, then like the living entity he would change his body and forget everything about his past life. Anyone with a material body cannot remember his past life, nor can he foretell his future life, nor can he predict the outcome of his present life. Therefore he cannot know what is happening in past, present, and future. Unless one is liberated from material contamination, he cannot know past, present, and future. Unlike the ordinary human being, Lord Krishna clearly says that he completely knows what happened in the past, what is happening in the present, and what will happen in the future. In the 4th chapter, we have seen that Lord Krishna remembers instructing Vivasvan, the sun god, millions of years ago. Krishna knows every living entity because he is situated in every living being's heart as the Supersoul. But despite his presence in every living entity as the Supersoul, and his presence as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the less intelligent, even if able to realize the impersonal Brahman, cannot realize Sri Krishna as the Supreme Person. Certainly the transcendental body of Sri Krishna is not perishable. He is just like the sun, and Maya is like a cloud. In the material world we can see that there is the sun and that there are clouds and different stars and planets. The clouds may cover all these in the sky temporarily, but this covering is only apparent to our limited vision. The sun, moon, and stars are not actually covered. Similarly, Maya cannot cover the Supreme Lord. By his internal potency, he is not manifest to the less intelligent class of men. As it is stated in the 3rd verse of this chapter, out of millions and millions of men, some may try to become perfect in this human form of life, and out of thousands and thousands of such perfect men, hardly one can understand what Lord Krishna is. Even if one is perfected by realization and impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma, he cannot possibly understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, without being in Krishna consciousness. So there's a famous verse in the 18th chapter that's kind of part of this theme. Bhaktyaham abhijanati yavanyaschasmi tattvataha. Only by bhakti can I be known in truth as I am, tattvataha. That word tattvataha is very important. And knowing me in truth, one can enter into the spiritual world. So it's entirely in Krishna's hands what our fate is. And he's giving us all facility to become purified and gradually realize it in truth. But it's up to us to take up that process seriously. And this verse, as I often think, is just somehow or other, it just boggles my mind. You know, there's so many infinite things about Krishna, but the fact that he knows everything, past, present, and future, is in a different category. And one of the reasons why I think about this verse a lot is that back in the end of the 97, I think it was, started, where there was some idea that since Prabhupada was perfected in Krishna consciousness, he should also be like Krishna, omniscient. And then the question arises, well, okay, but we know that, there were some horrific things happening in the Gurukul in the 80s, 70s and 80s, and 90s, early 90s. Why didn't he stop it? Why didn't he stop it in those years when he was present, if he knew everything? And the answer is that he never claimed to be omniscient in that way. He showed that he had some extraordinary knowledge, and he would always say, well, this was given to him by Krishna. He's in touch with the super soul in the heart. So he could know extraordinary things and often speak to, someone has a question in the class, the class is in the middle of the class, they haven't even got to the question period, and Prabhupada is already answering their question by what he's saying. That's happened a lot. So, but only Krishna can be in this position. of knowing everything. It's said that the Trikaligya, that the great devotees can know, 3 past, present, and future, but they can only know that to a small degree. They're just like even the gopis, and there are so many things are hidden about Krishna for them. The rasa will be spoiled if they understood this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Mother Yashoda, when she gets a glimpse of that, she looks into Krishna's mouth. He hides that, so she can again think of him as her helpless little child. So that's the state that we're in. Our knowledge depends on Krishna, where his knowledge doesn't depend on anyone. And so that's the situation he's in. Okay, one more. Ichadvesha samutena dvandva mohena bharata sarvabhutani sammoham sarge yanti parantapa. O scion of Bharat, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate. Purport. The real constitutional position of the living entity is that of subordination to the Supreme Lord, who is pure knowledge. When one is deluded into separation from this pure knowledge, he becomes controlled by the illusory energy and cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The illusory energy is manifested in the duality of desire and hate. Due to desire and hate, the ignorant person wants to become one with the Supreme Lord and envies Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pure devotees who are not deluded or contaminated by desire and hate can understand that Lord Shri Krishna appears by his internal potencies. But those who are deluded by duality and nescience think that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is created by material energies. This is their misfortune. Such deluded persons symptomatically dwell in dualities of dishonor and honor, misery and happiness, woman and man, good and bad, pleasure and pain, etc. Thinking, this is my wife, this is my house, I am the master of this house, I am the husband of this wife. These are the dualities of delusion. Those who are so deluded by dualities are completely foolish and therefore cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So let's unpack this verse a little bit. Ichadvesha samutena. Now when you see this ending, ENA in Sanskrit, it's called instrumental. And therefore you have the arisen from or by, the word arisen, due to something. So ichadvesha, having arisen, causes the next thing, dvandva moha. But Dvandva Moha is also instrumental, Dvandva Mohena. So what happens from Dvandva Mohena? Sarvabhutani Samoham. All living entities are completely bewildered from the delusion of dualities, arisen from desire and hate. So the first thing is the desire and hate, and that's this inconceivable situation where we're with Krishna in the spiritual world. Prabhupada explains it this way. Because Sarge means creation, the universe. You come into the universe. Or it can mean, life after life. You're being born. But so to take it as the fall of the jiva, somehow or other, and this is inconceivable why it happens, but we have that free will. We're marginal means that we can choose which energy we're going to be controlled by. Now, once we make that choice, say for the material energy, then we are controlled by the material energy, and our choices within we think our choice is just within the material energy. We forget the main choice is the material or spiritual energy. For that's the rare person who comes in touch with this philosophy and who takes it up. And who can say, okay, I can choose to serve Krishna, and that's a whole different track, leading to perfection. Or I can continue to serve Maya and stay within these dualities. So, but having chosen the Ichadvesha, so Prabhupada said, Ichha means desire, Dvesha means hate or abhorrence. I desire to be the enjoyer. Not to serve Krishna, but to be the enjoyer. And I hate serving Krishna. This is how Prabhupada described it. We're in the spiritual world. So that gives rise to the delusion of duality. And now I'm in the material energy. This is good, this is bad, heat and cold, dark, pleasure and pain, man, woman, all those things. So that's we're in the duality world. And all living beings, thus completely bewildered by this delusion of duality, they enter into the spirit, those who have entered into this material world. Now, the other verse that comes up by this is this, when you talk about dvandva, moha, this bhayam dvitiya abhinaveshitaksyad. Bhayam dvitiya, notice the word dvitiya there, abhinaveshitak, absorbed in the dualities of this world. Having turned away from Krishna, yishada petasya, one becomes absorbed in the dualities of this world. And that gives rise to fear, because you're no longer under the protection of Krishna's lotus feet. You're on your own. It's you and the material energy. So then you forget everything. So it's the same idea, and that this dual world, the second energy. It means there's the internal energy of Krishna, and then there's the external energy. When you become absorbed in the external energy, and the dualities attendant therein, you're forgetting Krishna, and you come into the material world. So that's another way of understanding this verse. But how to get rid of this duality, that'll be explained in the next verse, which we don't have time for now. But we'll finish the chapter on Monday. Okay, so let's end with a nice little verse and poem. Since yesterday we kind of were rushed. Plus the arti was started 2 minutes early, so that really rushed us. Hare Krishna. So, yeah. So, there's a Dehishti Mangsurudire Bimatam Chajasva. Jaya Sutari Chasadama Matam Vimuncha. Pushyani Sam Chagadidham Chanabhanga Tishtam. Vairagya Ragya Rasiko Bhava Bhakti Nishtam. Don't love the body, just a bag of flesh and blood and bone. Give up your sense of ownership for all you think you own. At every moment, see that your world totters on destruction. Become detached and learn to love the Lord without obstruction. And then I always point out that there's a line there at the end, Vairagya Raga. We have to become attached to detachment. Vairagya Raga, and become a rasika. Be able to taste the Krishna Bhakti. Then you can make advancement. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.